What up, everyone? As always, I am the Comic Outlaw. This is Magnus, and you know that we're coming from parts unknown as we're shifting from one multiverse to the other. This is our YouTube channel on this earth. So, what's up, everyone? You want to say what's up to the audience?
Howdy. I went with howdy.
And today, as you probably see it by our attire, is we're going to be talking about green.
Oh, here, I thought we were talking about artifacts. Whipped out the knife.
Oh, well, it's green too.
Yes, the knife was green.
It's more of a tool than an artifact.
Yeah. And, so we were supposed to go to blue doing proper Warburg order, but somebody may or may not have gotten impatient, and somebody might have been...
Well, I can't help it. I love green. It's one of my favorite colors.
Green's great. It's actually a very good starter color. A lot of it is very upfront. You know, they're...
Actually, I started with green too when I was first playing.
Yeah, green and red tends to be the best starter ones, and I guess coming out with the ideology of green, which is out of the 5 colors, it's the most unique ideology, and its ideology is nature. Mm-hmm. And what makes it unique is the 4 other colors are more, I guess you could say, man-made constructs, with white being community, blue being knowledge, black ambition, and red passions. These are, once again, more social constructs. Well, nature, without humans, even elves, goblin, any of the superior races, if they were all gone, nature is still nature. It doesn't need that. Well, community still needs it. Knowledge needs it. And, yeah, I mean, you were talking about green's your favorite. Why don't you just come on the floodgates? Like, to you, what does green mean?
I find that interesting because, like, I started off, like, in the old days, I played for a long time back in Urza, and then when Mirrodine hit, I got real sick of it. Like, I got real sick of the way Magic was going.
Yeah.
And, like I said, green's a good, like, starter for rookies. I had a green and white deck. That was actually my first one.
Yeah.
First 2-color deck. And, yes, I enjoy green, but, of course, it's changed over the years. Mm-hmm. At one point, it had both life, creature, and creature boost.
Yeah, so part of nature is growth and vitality. So part of that is life gain, which is green shares with white, but the ideology is different. Once again, this is growth, while for white, it's sort of like healing magic, you know. White magic, white magic.
Well, another thing about green is it's good at bringing out mana. That card that I showed you guys, this is mana.
Yeah.
Without this, you can't summon these.
Well, I mean, you can. It just takes longer. So for green, it's referred to as mana ramp. And green does it actually 2 different ways. It uses spells or creatures to search your library for lands and put them into your hand or into the battlefield. Or creatures actually could do that as well. There's creatures where you can tap them and a land that's in your hand, just slap it on the battlefield. And the other way, more often than not, they're referred to as mana dorks, which is like Land War Elves is the most popular one. But it's a weak creature that you can tap for more often than not green mana. But there's one.
Well, back in the day, there was a Borg Elf. Mm-hmm. It cost 3. It gave you either a blue, black, or green, I think.
Yeah, it's not unusual for that. There's one that it can produce black mana, but you lose a life. There's one that actually produces white, green, and blue. Then there's another one that does green.
Well, then there's different elves where you can tap it, and then it does whatever color of your choice, too.
Yeah. So, yeah, green's really good at that. And so, yeah, they mana ramp, but what are you going to use all this mana for?
Well, bringing out big creatures, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, a lot of the thing is, because a lot of the creatures are really big.
Oh, yeah.
And some of them, like, the other ones are, like, real puny. There's really no in-between. I mean, there are boosters to help boost stuff, but with all the counters and destroying enchantments and stuff like that, it tends to weaken green out unless you can bring the big stuff out quickly.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the big guys, like, I remember when Croson Cloud Scraper, people were freaking out. It's like, it's a 13/13? And, I mean, now they have World Spine Worm, which is a 15/15 trample. If it dies, it effectively splits up into 3 5/5 worms. So, green could get pretty nasty.
I got to get that card.
Yeah.
For my worm deck.
And so, yeah, when it comes to the biggest bad, not only does green do it, but green does it efficiently. Like they have creatures where it's just like an 8/8 for 6. And like for other colors, that's pretty unheard of, especially for blue, which blue tries making creatures where the power isn't greater than the mana cost.
They have a lot of walls too in blue back in the day. That was another thing that they were.
Yeah, white and blue, they're a little more control, so that they like defense. Well, green's not as big in defense. I mean, they have defenders themselves, but I mean, trample is one of their key mechanics.
Yeah, but we're leaving out a glaring weakness when it comes to green.
They have a few. One of them is flyers.
That's a glaring weakness.
Yeah. So green tries going around it by having reach, so they can block flyers, but they themselves don't.
Or certain creatures like arachnids.
Yeah, the spiders are very anti-flying.
Yes, they are. I find them very useful over the years. Spiders and
archers, they're another one. There's a difference between green archers and white archers.
Yes, there is.
White archers, it's not unusual for them to tap to deal damage to an attacking or blocking creature, while green archers tend to have reach and block flyers.
Yes. Well, and then like besides that, there's enchantments like I think it's called Treetop Embracers.
Okay, yeah.
Where it's like a +1/+1 that gives you flying.
It doesn't give you flying. It makes it to where you can't be blocked by creatures that don't have flying.
Okay, yeah. But you can block flying too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't think you could block flying. It's just you can't be blocked.
Really? I thought you could. Well, anyway, like we're saying, green has that big weakness when it comes to flying.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of certain colors are built to target it too. Black.
Mm-hmm.
Blue control.
Yeah, so blue can counter their stuff. So like, oh, I play this big guy. And it's just like, yeah, no, he just goes straight in your graveyard. Doesn't even hit the battlefield.
Yep.
While black, the original staples like Terror, Dark Banishing, but now they have to go for the Throat, Doomblade, Murder, and such. It's just like, oh, I don't care how big that guy is. Kill it directly, which green could get around it by having hexproof, or there's plenty of green creatures that can't be countered.
Well, see, back in the day, they didn't have a lot of that.
Yeah.
Like you had to mix colors.
Yeah. Well, that's why. What is it? Not Autumn Elf. Autumn Willow. She was, I believe, a 4/4, but she had a special ability where you could tap. I think it was just one green. It could have been two, but and she gets Shroud. She can't be targeted by spells or abilities, and that was a tournament-worthy card because when she was out, you couldn't really mess with her. And once again, green, not hard for them to have mana out.
Well, last time we were talking about the Kuvu.
The Kavu, yeah.
Kavu, yeah. And there was this one, I can't remember how much it cost. It was pretty cheap.
Mm-hmm.
But it had a very special ability. For one, it becomes any color that you choose.
Yeah, that wasn't unheard of during that era where it had like, oh, it changes creature type, it changes color.
Well, I thought that was extremely useful if someone has like fear or, intimidation that we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you a sporting chance.
Yeah. And it was a very circumstantial ability, and I think that's why they kind of just neglected it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I think too, but I don't know, like green also has like a fair amount of life gain. Is more power enchantments.
Yeah, they have plenty of instant or sorceries or enchantments that just pump up your cards. I mean, Might Evokes, I think for 4 mana you'll get +7/+7. Overrun, all your creatures get +3/+3 in trample.
Oh yeah, that's a great one. It's very expensive though.
Yeah, and there's a worm enchantment effectively where it's a enchanted creature gets +6/+6.
Oh yeah.
But you can tap 6 and you get rid of the enchantment, but then it just becomes a 6/6 worm.
Yeah, but the thing is that it doesn't do direct damage.
Yeah, so green is very creature centric, so it's not unusual for them to have cards where it's just like your creature deals damage to another creature. Now it's not even attacking; it's just its power hurts this creature. So so they try getting around it with that, and like it's not like blue, red, or green, which can have capabilities of drawing. A lot of times, like, oh, if you play a creature with toughness or power that is like greater than 3 or 4, then you draw a card.
Yeah.
And except for they have Harmonize, which is a color shifted version of concentrate. So it's 2 colors, 2 green, draw 3 cards.
Well, green kind of reminds me. I hate to say this, but we were talking about the different forms
Mm-hmm.
a while back. Check out our Star Wars shows. We were talking about the Jedi forms, and I believe, even though with all the big creatures, it's still more. It reminds me more of like Form 6.
Really, I was gonna say Form 5.
Well, yes, dude, it has that pounding, but it has like. It's kind of like everyone uses it.
Mm-hmm.
Like green is something I see mixed into a lot of color decks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because of the way it provides mana.
Yeah, it provides mana. It brings the beef. If you don't have the beef, it could just slap it on someone. And they have some protection spells also. Like, it's not unusual for them to have a card that instant speed gives your creatures hexproof or even indestructible, so it can save its creatures.
Well, yeah, it can save its creatures too, but it needs a lot of help. It's like one of those. It seems like one of those decks that was. That's why I say Form 6. It was made to be used with something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like when I think Form 5, maybe red would be more of the hard hitting.
Okay, yeah.
You know. I think blue would probably be like. I think white would be Sarisu.
Yeah, which is Form 2?
Sarisu is Form 3.
Form 3.
Kenobi one.
Okay, so, and then Form... Was it 4 where it's a mixture of basic techniques with force powers?
That's the jumping around one, the one that Yoda uses.
Yeah, that's kind of blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were talking about some Green's ideology, sort of going back to growth and vitalization is also regrowth.
Yes.
That Green is really good at bringing back permanents from the graveyard to the hand, or sometimes
usually
battlefield.
mostly creatures though. Like in my experience, it's been a lot more creature pool than.
Yeah, a lot of times it's creatures. If it's going to do more than creatures, then it tends to do any of the permanents, or sometimes it's creature and land.
Yeah.
But it's not good at all about returning instant sorceries.
Oh, I noticed.
Yeah. And going back to not playing well with flyers, there's plenty of cards where it's like deal 4 damage to target flyer, or there'll be an elemental, or once again Spyro that just directly deals damage to flyers.
Yep.
And then I guess one ideology we haven't talked about is, once again, with nature, there's the natural. So something like metal in the earth, that's natural, it's already there. Or in case of magic, magic is natural, it's there, but with somebody with specific intent forming it and creating it to their own idea of what it should be, to Green, that's unnatural. Taking that iron from the earth and making it to a sword, nature doesn't like that. It's just like, well, it did not form itself. You know, it's just like it didn't take time for rocks to hit it. It didn't get hot from lava falling on it. You know, it's not natural. And so it's another thing that shows why is destroying artifacts and enchantments. It does that very well.
Yes, I did notice that it does destroy artifacts and enchantments, but there's also a lot of artifacts that feed off of green.
Sure, especially from Mirrodin and what is now New Phyrexia.
Yeah.
You know, green, surprising enough, plays well, and it's with artifacts, and there's even sort of an idea of it being able to potentially bolster them with like Metalcraft when that was around.
That's my problem. Magic has just changed so much. The rules have changed, you know, like.
Yeah, well, it was very plane specific.
Well, at first it was, but it gave you an opportunity to mix.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, it just seems too easy. Like I feel like Magic has sort of lost the strategy that it had once before.
If anything, it's kind of more efficient with a lot of the creatures. If you have the money, you know, you could get some of the best ones are like $10, $20, $50, and
but
then it's...
That's what I liked about Magic back in the day. That you could buy just a regular deck, booster packs, and you could play with your friends, and even if they had like an expensive card or cards, there was always other cheaper cards to kind of counterbalance if you did it right.
Yeah.
You know? And now it's just kind of more about the money. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, a lot of that is, I guess we're going off from Green and talking about this, but like a lot of it's also the internet. Like back in the day, you didn't have immediate access to all the cards, and even though it's like, oh, it takes 3 days to ship, but it's like Yeah, but you didn't have to drive out all this way to get it, you know?
Yeah, I remember having to drive like 100 miles actually to get a box for the first time.
Yeah.
Actually, 105 miles. The car broke down. It was a long story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, try and get back on track of green, and that, so with green being about nature, a lot of its creatures, it of the natural world. We already mentioned spiders when we were talking with one of our previous videos of a lot with elves, and
Wolves.
insects. Wolves. You mentioned one. With wolves, that kind of shares a lot with red. There's plenty of red wolves, as well as a few.
Back in the day, there were rangers. I don't think they do that too much anymore.
I believe their creature type is now scout. They'll still be referred to as ranger. It'd be like, oh, this location, then ranger. But yeah, it's a scout.
And they have mixed soldiers, mixed elves, stuff like that.
Yeah, and druids.
Tree folk too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And druids, and then they tend to have shamans.
Worms have been very popular.
Yeah, worms. Depending on the planes, like each plane has a different reason for having worms. Like on Dominaria, the explanation is that they used to be dragons that got their that lost in the war and got their wings ripped off.
Yeesh.
Yeah, and that became the worm race.
That's actually a good story.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah. Yeah, each plane, they have their own reason for having worms, and they have their own reasons for having ornithopters.
Well, I don't know, dude. Like I said, green, I feel, is one of those colors you mix a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's good playing in singles, but like I said, it has a lot of weaknesses.
Yeah, and I guess mention like just with the color combinations, like with red, it makes it more faster, more aggressive, does stuff more directly. With white, it tends to deal with more life. And then also, it tends to deal with more creatures, not try and go as big as going wide.
Yeah.
With black, it actually deals more with bringing cards back, and then they really get the aspect of death.
Yeah.
Right. And then blue, the weird thing when it goes with blue, it deals a lot with counters, and I don't mean counter spells. I mean like your creature gets +1/+1.
Yeah, blue and green
and blue likes that a lot, which is weird because that's not even a blue trait. Like that's something that green likes, but then it likes it more when you have blue with it. Like the one that immediately comes to mind is Lore Skill Quaddle. Every time you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and it's a blue-green creature.
That's weird. I don't know. Blue and green have always been one of those ones where it's been okay, but I'd rather cross it with something else.
Yeah, it's a very awkward and clunky one. Kiora, who's the blue-green merfolk planeswalker. I mean, for the longest time, and even still might be now, that she's one of the cheapest planeswalkers money-wise. Like, she's cheaper than Tybalt, who's considered the worst planeswalker.
You were telling me about that, actually.
Yeah, like, you could get any of the Kiora planeswalkers for anywhere between $2 to $3, which that is dirt cheap. And she herself isn't bad, but once again, she's clunky, the decks are clunky, so out of all the decks that are opposite colors, like blue-green, it's the most awkward one.
I'd have to say so.
Yeah. And I guess one thing that I should mention is where they get their power from. Force.
Well, yeah, of course.
And so, once again, force, it's the reason to symbolize it, once again, with growth, vitality, it's all these trees growing in one area, and thus a forest is green. While like something like plains, it's open, so open like community.
Yeah, I always thought it was weird how like people tend to separate that, and like when I kind of like the way you explained it now, because back in the day they just drew the power from plains, or they drew their power from this. Mm-hmm. It was more of an area that they were from.
Yeah.
A territory. And that sort of made sense because goblins are from the mountains, elves are from the forest,
Yeah.
But it is interesting how community and green, like I said, is nature. Nature is often unpredictable.
Yeah.
So that's why I always saw green. Do you have anything to add about green before we cut it off?
There's an interesting ability that's pretty rare, but it pops up once in a while for green, is that you could sacrifice a creature or trade out a creature from either your hand or library that costs 1 mana more. And so it's kind of like evolving. It's like I'm taking this creature and making a slightly more powerful creature. Then I'm going to do that again, make it even more powerful.
That reminds me of the Rebel decks where you can bring in more.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Rebel was a very interesting mechanic. Like
Yeah,
they
Rebel
weren't,
and
they
Mercenary.
themselves weren't very powerful, but the fact that you could keep on bring them out and you always have that card advantage. Well, also there was one that was printed later where it's like you could actually get rebels from your graveyard.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, I remember hearing about that one.
And I guess since I touched on it quickly, yeah, green, it does +1/+1 counter. So once again with that growth, except that one's more permanent as opposed to giant growth, which is temporary. And yeah, I think for me that's about it.
Yeah, that's about it for me too.
All right.
We just wanted to catch you guys up, let you know we're gonna be dropping more colors coming up soon. And as always, I'm the Comic Outlaw. This is Magnus, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Later.
Laters.